Welcome to the Lakeshore University. I can say this, really I can. Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Happy Valentine's Day. We're glad you joined us this Sunday, and we welcome all who come in person or on Zoom. While we don't require a creed to be a part of us, we do have a set of 7 principles that we affirm and promote. The first one is my personal favorite because it speaks of recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every person. However, in the last year, the national organization recognized its own lack of clarity about its opposition to racism, both in and out of the UUA. So that's why the 8th principle has been introduced, and you have a copy of it in your bulletin. And we've been talking about this principle for a while now, but I'd like to phrase it in more accessible ways, at least for me. We will not only affirm, but act to build a diverse and multicultural community by dismantling racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. These actions will encourage spiritual wholeness and justice for all. So, in addition to the welcome, I want to offer you an opportunity to have announcements. Anybody got an announcement that they'd like to make? Well, while you're thinking, I'll give you one. You will have an opportunity to see Sonia's Portraits of Manitowoc project at the Rahr Art Museum from February 28th to June 6th. So you will not only get to hear about it this morning, but you'll be able to see the whole thing on the 28th of February. Now we'll have our chalice lighting. We light this chalice as a symbol of our commitment to our fellowship and to each other. May our many sparks meet and merge in the communion of heart and soul.
Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together, to seek knowledge and freedom, to share strength and fellowship. Thus do we covenant.
Our opening words this morning come from Barbara Wells. O spinner, weaver of our lives, your loom is love. May we who are gathered here be empowered by that love to weave new patterns of truth and justice into a web of life that is strong, beautiful, and everlasting. Our first hymn, if you have a hymnal handy, is 326, Let All the Beauty We Have Known. I have a short reading from a woman named Victoria Safford, and we've had other readings of hers, and she contemplates meaning of the expression beloved community. And it's one we use a lot among the UUs, and sometimes I'm thinking, what are you getting at here anyhow? And here's what she says. Beloved community is not a goal or destination, and it's not any kind of idealistic Christian utopian dream, but instead a way of being, spiritually, politically, economically, emotionally, and intellectually. Beloved community is an attitude, an orientation of the heart. It's a disciplined understanding of your own relationship to other people, to everyone else on the planet, to every living thing. If you are religious, this is a religious discipline and it goes by many names. If you're an ethical humanist, it's a deliberate moral stance. It is a daily practice, a spiritual politics that requires inclusivity, nonviolence, and the hard discipline, radical hospitality. It requires love. I am so happy to introduce Sonia for many reasons, but one of the main ones is that she is not only talking, but acting to encourage a broader picture of the people of Manitowoc. She designed a part of the mural on the Lakeside plant near the lake, representing some of the people from the cultures who have worked there. How many of you have seen that mural? If you have not seen it, it's right near the library, so you can include it with a trip to the library to pick up some books. She's also the artist who is creating the project for the Rahr, Portraits of Manitowoc. Her art makes us all aware of the diverse people who live in Manitowoc. And Sonia not only does art, she's also the president of Lakeshore United Visionaries, a group that celebrates and lifts up the lives of Black, Indigenous, and people of color in the Lakeshore area. It also vows to bring the entire Lakeshore area together through education, understanding, and love. Sonia, it's all yours.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate you all taking the time to listen to what I have to say. Let me just get my power. All right. All right. So just to get started, just saying hello and thank you. I'm Sonia Vasquez, and I am an artist and activist. And here's a little bio about me. So I'm based in Manitowoc. I pretty much grew up here most of my life. I spent a short period of my life living in Reedsville, which is just 30 minutes away from here. So I kind of grew up in my younger childhood years in Reedsville. And I have been studying classically trained realist portraiture. So by that, I mean taking kind of what sort of old masters did and learning from them, learning from contemporary masters as well, and obtaining more skills and technical skills on developing my ability to make paintings and drawings, mostly of portraiture. So I do some other types of artwork, such as still lives and things like that. But for the most part, I focus on portraiture. And for my work in itself, I tend to blend activism and my artwork. So sometimes I do work that doesn't really have much to do with activism, and then for the most part, I try to for bigger projects and things like that, I try to incorporate activism and blend that with my artwork. So sometimes meaning, talking about social and political issues within my work, or making artwork that's meant specifically for some type of activism. So in my recent projects, as Linda mentioned, I worked on the Unity mural that's on Lakeside Foods. This is sort of the full image of it. There's a little bit more off to the side that we don't see here. But if you can check it out in person, it's definitely great to see in person. And this mural was actually a collaboration between several artists. So there were 3 artists that actually painted the mural, and then there were, I believe it's 2, 3, I think it was 4 artists that did different pieces of it, the design work for it. And then Erin Labonte, she kind of combined all of our sketches to make a full piece, and then herself, David Carpenter, and another artist worked on it to realize it into an actual painted mural. So to go into what my pieces of it are, these are the sketches that I sent to Erin. I was approached by her to be a part of the mural, and she asked me to, just kind of talk about things within my culture. I'm half Mexican. My dad is Mexican, born in Mexico. And so one thing that, I was thinking about in terms of this is connection to that part of my culture. And because I grew up in a predominantly white area, and often more so with my mom's side of the family, I tended to always have the traditions of my mom's side of the family versus my dad's side. Me and my siblings haven't really been around a whole lot of Mexican culture because our family that is on my dad's side lives in other places such as Mexico, Texas, Arkansas. So we didn't really grow up as much with Mexican culture. So I was trying to think of the things that I did connect to and was brought up with because of my dad. And so obviously in the first one here, this is a portrait of my dad. And I wanted to include some of his history as an immigrant. So the mountains in the back are part of where he grew up in Mexico, which is Zapotillo, Mexico, and what he did as a young person in Mexico, which was taking goats and taking care of them, taking them into the mountains to be fed. And then I included roses in both of the sketches, and also the what we call tunas, or they also can be referred to as pear fruits, or I think it's like spiky pear fruits or something like that. I grew up with calling them tunas, and that's what they call them in Mexico. So those are the cactus plants that are in here. And the roses are a big symbol in Mexico, used for lots of different things, for weddings, for funerals, celebrations of many different kinds. Just like, in the United States, roses are a symbol of love and passion. And so, yeah, I wanted to make sure to include flowers that were important to my culture, and then also food. So the tunas are not only used for food, but they're used for other things such as medicinal purposes and things like that. And they're a super good fruit. Every time that my father and I go down to Milwaukee, we often go down to Milwaukee for real good Mexican food, and different types of foods that you just can't find here, and often get tunas. And those are a staple in my family personally, and still are. So I wanted to make sure to include, food, the sort of connection of my dad, and then the image of the woman here is meant to represent my grandma as a young girl. So I wanted to include culturally the dresses that are often seen in celebrations and things like that. I remember wearing them when I was little. I had a dress just like that. And the ribbon around her waist, a red ribbon, is also another symbol of Aztec culture, which is what our native culture is in Mexico. So we would be Aztecs and then eventually Mexican. And then the little black sort of floral type designs are in reference to the flags that you often see in Mexican restaurants with little cutouts. Those are handmade in Mexico, and they're a common folk art and traditional art. So I wanted to include some sort of artwork in there also that's traditional to the culture. And then the other thing that I wanted to try to include in this was activism in some way, since that's a big connection for me, and since it's also, kind of interesting to connect activists in Mexico or activist movements in Mexico or, immigration movements, Mexican movements here. So I included the text that is in both of these. So El Pueblo Unido means a people united or the people united. And then Si se puede is used often in immigration marches. It means yes, we can. And so I've been to a lot of immigration marches, especially in Milwaukee when I was living there. And that's a super common phrase to be saying as you're marching. So that's about it for those two. The only thing that obviously wasn't added was the text. Lakeside Foods kind of wanted to stay away from anything a little bit too edgy in terms of activism. So the text was not included, but for the most part, the imagery was definitely included, and I'll show you here. So this is the end result of the two sketches and what Aaron kind of came up with and what is up there on the mural. So I was super happy with the design work and the painting afterwards. It's better than I ever expected. It's super beautiful, and my dad was a little bit nervous about his face being so huge on a mural in Manitowoc. He was like, well, what if people don't like it? And it's like, well, that's just how it is. But no, I'm super happy. It's such an honor to be able to celebrate my culture, celebrate my dad. He's the epitome of a hardworking immigrant. He worked all of his life until he got into an accident and had to retire, but he provides for our family and always has. So I definitely appreciate that strength and being able to celebrate that. So then we can move on to the Portrait of Manitowoc, which is the other project that I'm currently working on. So this project kind of started with the Rahr approaching me, asking me to possibly do something involving community art. So as we kind of fledged through ideas and things like that, I thought it would be appropriate to marry, what at the core is like what I love doing and the community. So for me as an artist, my focus has always been portraiture and classical portraiture. And including that in the community sounded like the perfect way to combine those things. So, the idea behind this was for me to do 10 portraits of diverse individuals in the community. So that means diverse ethnically, racially, age, gender, sexuality, I wanted it to be as diverse as I could possibly be. So I was choosing different types of people to try to get a good representation within, within 10 people for myself. But then we also have the aspect of it of opening it up to the community and asking the community to be a part of it, which I'll talk about more soon. So this is a little sneak peek. I thought I'd give you all a sneak peek of one of the portraits that I started working on for the project. So this is Vincent. He is one of my friend's sons. He's half Hmong, and he's just totally adorable, and I loved painting him. So all of the paintings are on the same size paper that comes with the packets for the community. So my portraits are going to be right in line in the installation along with the communities. I didn't want there to be a sort of hierarchy or anything like that. I wanted it to be all one together community portrait. So the papers are 4 by 6 inches. The idea was sort of to have it be like a postcard. So that's the size that we went with. And I'm going to be continuing to do the artist residency. I started it back last year, but because of COVID, unfortunately, I was only able to do an in-person one. I believe it was once or twice, and then we moved to live video. So I am happy to announce that we're going to be doing 3 more sessions of in-person, where I'm going to be painting and working on some of the paintings that will be included in the exhibition. So the exhibition will be up, but I'll still be sort of adding to it and working on it as the time goes by. And so these are the 3 dates that we are going to be doing that. And just want to add that the first time I did it, people were a little bit nervous to come talk to me or worried about bothering me. But trust me, I have no problem with talking to people while I'm painting. I appreciate it. I love it. It makes my time go by a little bit quicker, and I just love talking about art. So if you ever have any questions or just want to chat while I'm painting, I'm totally open to that. So then moving on to the community participation part of it. So what we're asking is for the community to participate by doing their own self-portrait. And this can be in any sort of form that's 2-dimensional. Just because of how our installation is, it has to be able to fit between 2 pieces of plexiglass so that it has to be flat. So you can work in, graphite, charcoal, paint, collage, any other 2D media, markers, crayons, anything. And we're told, you don't have to be a self-proclaimed artist or have formal training. We want as many people as possible to contribute to this so that we get a full picture and idea of Manitowoc. And the more that we have, the even more exciting and wonderful it's going to be, because it's going to just be, full of portraits of different people in Manitowoc. So then we're asking people to answer a few questions on the back. And there are instructions that come with this when you pick up a packet from the Rahr that has the paper provided and then the instructions. And the main question that we're asking everybody is, how do you feel about your identity in relation to Manitowoc? So when I explained this to one of the people that I was talking to that I'm painting, the way that I explained it was, for me personally, my identity in relation to Manitowoc is a little bit, here and there sort of. As I said earlier, I didn't have much connection to Mexican culture. There's not all that much opportunity currently here to kind of get into that, or, there aren't really traditions or celebrations that are happening here that I can participate in as much, and wasn't when I was growing up either. So I've had to kind of find different ways or go different places to find connections to that part of my culture. But I do appreciate and love, the different types of things that we do have here that are different parts of culture. They may not be Mexican culture, but obviously, Manitowoc has its own things and its own culture, and I do appreciate some of those things. So, I should just add too that all the people that I am painting will also be answering this same question, but they'll be doing it through recorded audio. So when I meet with everybody, I take their picture, I ask them this question, I record them answering this question. And so part of the exhibition is going to be that these audio clips of the different people that I've painted are going to be playing as you walk around the gallery. So you'll be able to hear the actual voices of the people that I've painted telling their stories. So then when you're done with your portrait, if you participate, just return it to the museum and it will be part of the exhibition. And as you can see down here, I have community self-portrait examples. These are a few people that turned theirs in already. And we don't have a due date anymore. We, want to encourage more and more people to participate, more time to be able to do that. So there's still definitely time to get a portrait in if you'd like to. All right, so I'm going to move on a little bit to talking about my work with Lakeshore's United Visionaries. So I am the president and the Arts and Humanities chair. And to start out, I just want to say I entered the group shortly after, I entered the group right at the community barbecue that happened last summer. And I entered the group basically just, offering to do face painting for kids. And then just, kind of kept going to meetings that were started and things like that and building upon it. I never expected to be president, but I am now. So, so that's kind of how I got my start in Lakeshore's United Visionaries. So to bring it back a little bit to our mission, which is bringing unity in the community through education, understanding, and love. And so everything we do, we try to make sure to be going by that mission. Education is such a huge thing for us. So that's a major point of our work. But as for what I do within the group, besides being president, which is a lot of more business end of things, which is not as exciting. But for the arts and humanities part, I pretty much do all of the design work and artwork for the group. So on the side here, we can see the MLK poster. Those were given out to local businesses on Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. And we asked different businesses if they wanted them. We gave them away for free. What our aim was to do was to get most of the businesses in the downtown area and just cover them with imagery of MLK. And there were also, this poster isn't the only one. There were 3 different versions with 3 different quotes. So, just to show and have representation, that's always been such a big thing for me personally, but also a big thing for us with Love is to have representation in our community. And in combination with the posters for Martin Luther King Jr. Day, I did a mural on the library, a temporary mural on the library windows. It was done in tempera paint, and it was on the side of 8th Street on the windows. It's no longer up because it was just temporary. We actually just cleaned it off this weekend. But this is the sketch here for that mural that I did. And then moving on to more recently, I did this design for Black History Month, the billboard. So on the top here, we have different people who each of us are sort of researching and typing up a bit of a biography on them and sharing them on our website throughout the month, so that we have all different types of people throughout history and currently that people can go learn about on our website. And you can see that billboard on the 26th and Calumet location. It's right by David's House of Travel, and there's like an auto shop right there. So that's super exciting. I got to see it for the first time not long ago, and it's just awesome to see our billboard up there. And then some of the other things I do is, design some of the logo work, merch, things like that. So the No Hate in Our State was designed after the incident at Walmart with the hunting license that happened. This design is still on our merch page. So any profits that come from buying anything with that design on it go back to Ruby, who is the victim of that incident. I also designed all of the other imagery for anything on our merch site, including our logo, and then a few other things that we have on there. And then the Unity Walk logo is also another one that I designed for our Unity Walk that happened last year. And we hope to get started planning on the next one very soon. So we're super excited about that. That was in collaboration mostly with PFLAG. And then lastly, I have some links for where you can find me and Lakeshore's United Visionaries. So I have a website, my own website, which is soniavasquezart.com. I have an Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon, all at Sonia Vasquez Art. For more information on the portrait project, you can go to manitowoc.org, or you can just search in Google Portrait of Manitowoc project, or find it on the Rahr West website or their Facebook page. And there's more instructions on there about how to get involved in the project and just read a little bit more about it as well. And then for Lakeshore's United Visionaries, we have a website, lakeshoresunitedvisionaries.com. We also have an Instagram and Facebook, which is all Lakeshore's United Visionaries. Our merch is on Teespring, which is at this location here. And then we also take donations through our website, which is through PayPal, or we can take checks or cash sent to First Presbyterian Church. We're underneath an umbrella with them. So any checks would be written to First Presbyterian Church, and then love is in the memo line, just so that they know that it goes to us. So that's all I really have. Thank you so much for reaching out to me and for allowing me to do this. I love the opportunity to talk about art with anybody at any time. So I'm super happy to do it. And I see that you all have a beautiful community here, and that's really exciting to see also. So I'm willing to take any questions if anybody has any.
Sonia, we were so thrilled to be at your first demonstration at the. I was the the pesky one at your elbow asking questions. And we're related through my nephew is Zach.
Mhm.
So anyway, when I first saw Sonia's artwork, it was at our grandniece's Taylor at her funeral, and Sonia had a portrait piece, just a wonderful symbol of love and care. And I just want to share with you, Sonia, that most of the UUs here contributed a one time or even on a monthly basis to Taylor's medical fund and such. And so our family of UUs here are really connected to your family, our family and your family. So, but anyway, the question I have is, when you were young, did you do lots of drawings and I mean, were you already curious and interested in faces and I'm curious about your, like, maybe 8, 10 years old, like what was the seed or the birth of your art expression?
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you all for those contributions to Taylor. I really appreciate that. I'm big on my family and totally and utterly love my family. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. So as for when I was younger, I remember, I know I got asked this once in college too, where it kind of started for us most often it's when we're little, right? So I remember a specific time where I drew like a wolf howling at the moon, and all of my classmates were like, "Oh my gosh, that's so good! Can you draw me one? Can you draw me one?" And so I was like drawing all these wolves howling at the moon, and and I think it definitely started when I was probably in I remember as far back as Head Start, and people kind of taking notice to my drawing and painting, and well, at that time probably with crayons, but and I think it's just through people encouraging me and talking to me about it. I think encouragement of kids when they're younger, of their artwork, and if they're passionate about it and you can see that, and continuing to encourage them, it definitely helps move them towards keeping up with it and pursuing it. So I think that was a huge thing for me, was that other people taking notice and encouraging me to continue.
Those are beautiful drawings. My question is, have you had, noting the political climate that's been more recently, negative feedback on your efforts in this community?
Well, for my artwork side of things, no. But definitely being a part of Lakeshore's United Visionaries, there's definitely been some negative things that we've had to deal with. But we sort of let it kind of roll off our backs. Sometimes we try to give people the opportunity to talk with us and educate and be able to have a civil conversation with people, because that's what we hope to do, is to get people educated so that it's more inclusive and diverse. And sometimes when people are on the totally opposite sort of spectrum from us, it gets more difficult, but we're always willing to talk with people. So yeah.
I'm curious how you would engage someone in conversation now that, and whether or not this has taken us to a different venue, and it's appropriate, but with Biden now opening up the immigration, how you respond to that, to people who might be opposed to it.
Sure. funnily enough, I actually just had a conversation with somebody over the weekend about this. Unfortunately, it was a family member who was against it, but the way that I talked about it, because most often, the argument is, people coming into our country illegally or allowing too many people in, and they're going to take our jobs or things like that. This person that I was talking to over the weekend had stated was upset about Biden allowing 25,000 asylees to possibly come in. And they were talking about, how there's the issues of cartel and are they coming in with these asylees? There's not enough vetting. But if you look on, and this is what I sent to this person, if you look on the United States Immigration and Citizenship Department website, you can see the process that asylees go through and the process for citizenship, the path to citizenship, and the vetting that also happens with both of those things. And so I linked that person to those things so that they can see that our country has a process for this. It's not just opening the borders and letting anybody in. It's an actually very long process at times. Sometimes it can be years before people can get in. And sometimes that's even a negative thing because, if people are seeking refuge in our country because they have potential for being harmed in theirs, they could be subject to harm in their country if they can't get away from it soon enough. The other thing with citizenship is that I often refer to is that I've worked with people trying to get citizenship, and it is a much more lengthy and arduous process, especially for people, where English isn't their first language. It makes it very difficult for people to get citizenship without some kind of outside help, especially, lawyers and things like that you might need that people just can't always afford or don't have access to. So, there are some definitely pitfalls into the process for asylum or immigration and citizenship. So I take it from the education route of sending people, fact-based information from reputable sources and kind of telling them what the actual process is, because I feel like a lot of people don't know that.
I'm certainly familiar. I'm from Canada, and my permanent residency process took 18 months, and that's with a hired, well-established legal team that was hired by my employer.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't imagine it's for someone who does not have the access to that.
Right. Yeah, I know somebody that they filed a petition when they were younger for citizenship, and she is still waiting like 20 some years later.
Wow.
for citizenship. Yeah. So sometimes it's, it's not within the hands of the people seeking citizenship. They can still be illegal here, and they get, all this kind of pushback for being illegal, but it's not even within their control at times.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sonia. That was very helpful. Good question, Cheryl. Anybody else with a question or?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, Karen.
Sonia, I was just wondering, I was curious about who has inspired you along the way, your artistic journey, through the beginning, and who inspires you now?
So I guess artist-wise, it's always been for me the old masters. So I started really getting into them when I was in high school. So Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, all the kind of common names that most people would recognize, and really started learning from them. I think one thing that I always took with me was a quote from Dali, that he said something about learning or mastering the skills before sort of like breaking the rules or going off and doing your own thing. So that's kind of always been a thing for me, is that like I've always wanted to learn traditionally how to develop those skills and become the best that I possibly could be, and then start, kind of moving into other sorts of areas within art, or, developing my own style and manipulating things to make them my own. Now, contemporary artists that I'm follow a lot are Stephen Bauman, Amaya Garpide, Sean Cheatham. Trying to think of some more people. It's a lot of Instagram. So I definitely am always on Instagram and sort of curate my Instagram, and I pretty much only follow artists. So I only get art on my feed. And that way it kind of keeps me engaged with what's sort of happening, what are ideas for things. I always go back to Instagram for inspiration, or if like I'm feeling stuck in a painting, I'll be like, okay, well, how did this person approach this part or whatever? So that's a big thing for me. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate hearing about your journey and what people have risen to the top for you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonia. You've given us a lot of your time and your effort. Maybe we need to move along from here, since it's now 11:01. We have coffee.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Spirit of life, spirit of love, we have gathered under the banner of a shared faith. We are born of a welcoming grace that extends and receives love. We are touched by the ways we have fallen short of who we would strive to be, and we here want to be reborn. Forged by a greater courage, let us move from this place, encouraged and refreshed for the journey ahead.